Heist, one of the best early league money-making methods in Path of Exile. So this is going to be a quick guide explaining the core mechanics of Heist and how you can use them to make pretty good currency early on in a league, and this guide is definitely for newer players, or not even new players, but just people who haven't even done Heist before, or just thought it was too daunting to get into. So let's go ahead and just dive right in. Okay, so before we get too deep into the mechanics of Heist, I just quickly want to touch on what you can expect to get loot-wise from Heist, just to give you an idea of like what Heist is capable of. The main thing we're going to be chasing in Heist is just raw currency. You get a lot of chaos and smaller currency from Heist contracts, but there are also some other items that are very rare rewards in Grand Heist that we're going to touch on a little later in the video, which includes things like the Simplex Amulet and other Heist specific items. Alright, so now that that's out of the way, let's go ahead and look at how you actually start heisting. At some point while running the axe, you are going to come across one of these, and when you open it, you are going to get a contract with some rogue markers. Now, if we travel to a hideout or a town, we can actually right-click these rogue markers to teleport to the rogue harbor, which is where we're going to go to steal things for money. Once in the rogue harbor, there's going to be a lot of people that you can talk to. At first, we will need to speak to Kurai to get started. However, once you have done that, we really only care about this section of people over here. We use Adaya to actually open our heist. We can talk to Isla to the north to equip gear on our rogues, which we'll go over a little later. You can use Volcano to purchase low-level contracts if you're just starting out. And then lastly, Faustus can be used to sell items. Now once you are here and you have a contract or a purchase one from Wakano, go ahead and use it via Adaya to open a portal to the heist. It doesn't really matter which rogue you select here for now. We'll go over that later in the video, but for now, let's just get in there. Now at first, it may look like a lot is going on, but trust me, Heist is a very simple mechanic. At the bottom, we have our alert level, which is raised by opening chests. If this fills up, a lockdown will occur where you must escape without dying. If you die during a lockdown, you will lose everything that you picked up in that heist. So basically, just don't die. No, but if you are worried about dying and losing your items, there is a little trick where you can just not fill the alert level, go back to the entrance of the heist and put your loot in your stash, and then you can either open a new heist or complete the current heist you're in. In order to complete a heist, you do need to steal the artifact at the end, which will automatically trigger a lockdown no matter what your alert level is, and then you do need to escape without dying. In doing so, will reward you with an artifact that you can sell for more rogue markers than what you had to pay initially for your rogue to help you out. Not doing this and simply leaving before lockdown every time will eventually lead to you running out of rogue markers, stopping you from running heists unless you go purchase or you go get some more from maps. While running Heist, you are going to notice these reward icons on your minimap. These are actually based on the type of contract that you're running, and I highly recommend starting out, if you're just here for raw currency, to just do demolition contracts, as these have the question mark reward chest, which tends to give chaos orbs more commonly than any of the other reward chests, including the currency chest from lockpicking contracts. These are the only contracts I recommend running early on, other than deception contracts, which we're going to touch on here in a little bit. If you run out of demolition contracts and you can't buy any more from Wakano, you can just use different ones until you level up, and that's going to reset Wakano's shop, and then you can just buy more from him, or you can purchase them off trade if you're not solo self-found. Now, let's take a look at the rogues themselves. Rogues are the people that you bring into Heist with you to open the doors and the chest for you, and they each have their own abilities that will help you out in Heist. So there are 9 different rogues, however, you do have to unlock some of them, which is very easy once you know how to do it. First, start out by running a lockpicking, perception, or agility contract with Karst to unlock Huck, and then once you have Huck, you use him in a brute force, demolition, or engineering contract to unlock Niles. Once you have Niles unlocked, use him in a counter thaumaturgy or deception contract to unlock Vendiri, and then finally you use Vendiri in a demolition, trap disarmament, or engineering contract to unlock Gianna. Once you have Gianna unlocked, you can unlock Talina by running a brute force or demolition contract using Tibbs. Then you need to run an agility, lockpicking, or trap disarmament contract with Talina to unlock Nanette, and then after doing that, you will have all of the rogues unlocked. There's 9 different contract types: deception, perception, counter thaumaturgy, demolition, engineering, agility, brute force, trap disarmament, and lockpicking. Each of these contracts will have multiple different rogues that you can take in with you, each providing a different ability. I am going to quickly show which rogues I tend to use in each of these contracts, as with Grand Heist, that we are going to touch on here in a little bit, you will need to run many different rogues. For lockpicking, Karst is the best, as he provides 40% reduced alert level when opening chests. For trap disarmament, I typically use Vendiri for the chance to duplicate chest rewards. For brute force, I use Tibbs, who can open small chests after the lockdown has started. For agility, I typically use Talina for less alert level. For engineering, I use Isla or Vendiri if I can, depending on the contract level requirement, as Vendiri can only go to level 2 engineering. For demolition, it is once again Vendiri. For counter thaumaturgy, I use Niles or Nanette for a less alert level. For perception, I use Nanette or Karst, depending on the contract level once again. And then lastly, for deception, I use Gianna for blueprint or grand heist reveals, which we're going to touch on here in a little bit. With the release of 3.27, all rogues now start out at max level in each of their skills, which is very nice as this allows us to equip items on them much easier than before. Rogue items can buff reward chest loot by giving things like chance to duplicate rewards, and can also provide things like increased job speed and reduced cut taken, meaning you just pay them less rogue markers for each contracts or grand heist. Personally, I feel that the best mods to look out for are job speed, reduced alert level gained by opening chests, and reward duplication, but honestly, rogue items aren't like super important early on if you're just here to make a little bit of currency. You don't really have to focus on these, and you don't have to pay them too much attention. So if you happen to drop one, you can just alchemy orbit and then throw it on for the time being. Alright, now that we have covered normal contracts, rewards, and rogues, the last thing we need to cover is grand heists, also known as blueprints. Grand heists are essentially the same mechanically as contracts, except for these heists have multiple wings, which are just multiple contracts in one that all have separate reward rooms at the end. It is important to note that in the grand heist, we don't care nearly as much about the normal reward chests that we cared about in the contracts, because the real loot is at the end of the heist, and yes, you do need to make it out alive to keep it. Instead of normal artifacts that you would get at the end of a contract, in blueprints the end room rewards range from replica uniques to raw currency to heist only base types such as the elusive simplex amulet, which is currently sitting at around 66 divines but has definitely been over 100 divines in multiple leagues previously. Grand heists are slightly different than contracts in setup, but overall the same concept applies when running them as we used in contracts. The way the setup works for grand heists is you either need to purchase fully revealed blueprints from people on the trade site, drop your own using this node on the atlas, or reveal the blueprints yourself. To reveal a blueprint, you need to accumulate reveals with Wakano, Niles, or Gianna by completing contracts that are higher than area level 68, using Gianna or Niles in a contract and completing it by stealing the artifact at the end and making it out alive will grant you a reveal for whichever rogue you use, whereas Wakano reveals are earned by using anyone besides Gianna or Niles in a contract. Gianna has the best reveals as she offers a large discount compared to Niles and Wakano, with Niles being in the middle and Wakano being the most expensive. Reveals cost rogue markers and allow you to reveal wings, reward rooms, and escape routes that could help you out in grand heists. Personally, when I run grand heists, I typically only reveal the wings. These are the most expensive things to reveal, so it is recommended to use Gianna for these if you have reveals stacked up with her. Wings in grand heists are essentially just an entire contract inside of the grand heist, meaning you can have up to 4 huge reward potential end rooms in total. Grand heists, in my opinion, are way more fun to run than just the basic contracts, but you do have a much higher entry cost and risk associated with them, as well as reward potential. Once you have everything revealed that you want, head on over to the planning room where you will plan out the grand heist at the planning table. Place your blueprint inside and you will see a grand heist plan laid out in front of you. Essentially, all you need to do here is just assign a rogue to each of the icons that are blinking. You kind of want to focus on rogues that give reduced alert level or chance to duplicate chest contents, but it's not super important, and if you don't have these options for any of the blinking jobs, just go ahead and assign whoever you want. It isn't really a big deal. After you have your grand heist planned out, click confirm plans at the bottom and head back over to a diet to run your grand heist. Hopefully this video has answered any questions you may have had about the heist mechanic in PoE. If it hasn't, or if I missed something important, feel free to let me know in the comments. I hope you all enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.